So it's easy to get caught up in the bullshit. I was just talking to my wife, and she works at a community clinic, and just like any other business, even a community clinic, the CEOs, they do some nasty stuff. They're businessmen. And, the staff gets run ragged. But she was talking about how they had to remind themselves today, like, why they are here, like why they are there. They're there because they care. They're caring people. Now, caring people get taken advantage of and blah, blah, blah. But it did, I run into that too in my day-to-day. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Because sometimes when I'm taking on the bulk of everything, house, car, kids, cleaning, cooking, and expected to make just as much, if not more, than my wife working full-time, doing it part-time because that's all I got time for, it's easy to lose sight in why I do it, and it's because I love my family and I care. But what I'm trying to get at is, when it comes to recovery, especially trying to convince someone in early recovery that it's better on the other side. Virtually impossible to do. You can't verbally convince them to live on the straight and narrow. How do you convince someone to do that, really? 'Cause it's hard work. But something about hard work is, if you can find work that you love, there's the old cliche, then it's not work anymore. No, it's fucking work. But you can love doing it more. It can inspire you more. The fast life isn't too inspiring, but how do you convince someone in early recovery the other side is better? I can't. All I can do is maybe give you some experience advice as a husband and a father that lives with his whole family and tries to run all this stuff and stay sober. See, it's been a while, and for the longest time, the sobriety part's been really easy, even when, I shouldn't say it was easy when shit really hits the fan, but even struggling weeks, it's easy. It doesn't bother me. I've set my life up in such a way to where there's not very much pulling on the chain that has a weak link, the genetic weak link. But there's still tons of stuff pulling on the chain. It's just it doesn't bend that link. And I don't even know how to explain this. I guess my advice for a huge one is who you're keeping around you, especially your significant other. And if you don't have one, I especially advise you to get a good one. See, me and my wife got really lucky in this thing that we do naturally. Some people have to make like almost chore charts to do it, but we do this breathing thing, and that's coming full circle. What I'm talking about is breathing, whether it's your work or your daily tasks, your routines. You gotta breathe through it in like 3 different ways. For one, sometimes you gotta take a step back and just breathe. We get so riled up in everything. I know my to-dos lists are 10 items deep, and when I get halfway through, I got 10 more. Just keeping track of them and thinking about what I got to do is overwhelming, let alone doing them. Until I breathe, and then it all just goes way more effortlessly. Also, when you're rebuilding your life, you got to take a step back and breathe, like my wife did at her clinic. Be like, why am I doing this? Like, yeah, it's hard. And it's not like, oh, my worst day sober is better than my best day messed up. Dude, I hate it when people say that. Because when you're in the midst of creating your own heaven on earth, which never works out, you have some pretty cool days. Don't ever say, I don't even categorize myself in the same dimension as that life. It is two different lives. I've been reborn. But it's not a religious thing. Like, I'm totally different. Even every cell in my body has regenerated. It's not even my same body, even though I look kind of the same, plus 50 pounds. Nothing is the same. You can't even compare them. The joy that I get now is from totally different things than I got before. And the things that I get joy from now, I wouldn't have gotten joy from before. And the things that I got joy from before, I wouldn't get joy from them now. It's entirely different. And sometimes you got to breathe and realize, why is my life this way? And my life is not perfect by any means. But I can find so many blessings. And I worked hard for them. But then when you have to share that with someone, and I really advise getting a good, or at least working really good with your partner, your spouse. Because what me and my wife do, and this is for just life balance in general, because it's so easy to get off balance. There's too many things to do, especially now. The days are speeding up. You can't get it all done, and you will burn yourself out trying. And we breathe together. So what that means with me and my wife, and I don't know how we do this naturally, but it works really good, is when, the best way I can describe it is one of us runs out of steam, and we need, like, just to do the bare minimum each day for a week. Like, I'm burnt. We don't even have to say it. We can see it. The other one steps up and shifts it into fifth gear. And they just, whatever. Somehow they have the energy, while the other, like, when my wife is burnt, going through a funk or whatever, I have, for some reason, all this energy. And when a day comes or a week comes when I'm just like, I just can't, she steps up beyond her normal daily things, and we just breathe like that. When I'm off my square, she grounds herself. It's just a mechanism that we have. We got to make up for it. It's like the better half thing. And it works really good. It works for not going completely insane. It works for not completely burning out. It keeps us on the tightrope. But if you got, it comes to us naturally, but that doesn't mean it didn't have to be tended to. I mean, there was conversations where I've had to be like, look, babe, we can't be enemies. You know, if we're like going through, like, say, newlywed stuff, or like, we have to be on the same team, because there's enough life coming at us to where we can't be divided. Or especially over petty shit, because when you're a couple, and like us, we're constantly attached at the hip. We're not like these working couples that only see each other for an hour at night, say, hi, babe, or whatever. We've always been really close. When you're with someone that much, you got to figure out that you're on the same team. It's not just a transactional relationship. You're literally sharing every thought, air, everything. That's huge. But fourthly, when you're rebuilding your life, and just keep this in mind if you're, like, in early recovery and you're like, dude, why would I want to do all that stuff? Why would I want to go work a 9 to 5? For one thing, I don't recommend a 9 to 5. You can't keep a life balance working 40 hours a week. That's why that's the standard. There's a reason they want you working 40 hours a week and giving your whole entire majority of your energy to that. If you can figure out and get creative or work on any other way to not have to work 40 hours a week and get by, I would do it. Don't trade your time. just don't. Even if you have to lessen your standard of living to spend time with your family and make that work and enjoy that over the little bit bigger paycheck you get, if you can figure that out, you're ahead of the curve. Or at least like my wife works full time and I don't. It would be switched. If I was working full time, she'd be working part time. Someone would have the time to do all these other things without literally getting sick from it, because that's what's happening to people. And then they're like, well, I need this to keep getting through my week. That's the same week after week. And then I need to save up for my vacation, so it seems like I did it for something or whatever. The other thing that'll give you a lot of, I guess, energy to stay balanced, because that's when you get off balance, is when you start getting weakened. Like when it gets to be too much, then you get knocked off your square. And energy, like your physical and mental like capacity to like keep it going, should be intentionally designed to what you're doing throughout the day. I mean, I'm talking about everything, but if you can get your job to revolve around it or even bring it with you to work, is God. It is the primary source. It's the intelligent energy of every atom, everything that everything is made out of. And if you can align yourself with that in whichever way you can possibly think of, that generally gives you more energy than your Snickers or your energy drink or whatever to keep the marathon going. Because I even realized in the last couple of days, I'm like, God, for some reason this week I'm so tired. And then I like took a step back and kind of like, I'm really not that tired. I just think I am. Because I got all this shit running through my head. It's wearing me out. Almost like a physical marathon, but it's in my head. And like when I'm like, but all these things are for, there's a certain outcome. A lot of the things that I do, I don't get the immediate gratification. There's no paycheck at the end of it. Half the stuff I do, people don't even know I do. And half the time they're giving me shit as I'm doing nice things for them. That's just how it is, man. Look at Yeshua. He's sitting there trying to help humanity and teach them, like, dude, you don't have to be such retards. And they're like, kill him! Kill him in the worst way possible and give him the worst human fear there is public humiliation. Do it there too. Like, they couldn't just even assassinate him. And then that's the same thing. How do I motivate someone to get closer to God and follow the teachings in Jesus when that is the consequence? You do get a little bit more attacked. You do get a little bit, if you're truly following the teachings and practicing in your life, you'll magnetically pull towards you the followers, and you'll get along like that. They're your kinfolk. But the rest of the world kind of, and the devil does attack, especially if you're doing good things. It's not like the devil ain't going to get you anyways. It's not like you all haven't even already felt it. It's just in different ways. At least you know you're on the right trail when you're doing good things, when you're getting attacked a little bit. And so, I mean, that's probably not the best motivation to be a follower of Jesus. But I'm just saying, when you can align yourself with that good energy, and not, like, if you're going off of worldly things and that outline and those goals, that's only going to suffice till you get to it. Once you get to it, it's gone. You know what I mean? It's the difference between like, oh, I want to make $1 million and I will expend my energy and make that goal. And once you get it, like King Solomon says, once you get it, it's not there. That pot of gold wasn't at the end of the rainbow. Like, you got your $1 million, but you still feel the same. So what's the next thing you got to chase? Whereas, say you're doing something like helping kids, which is what my wife does. She works in the pediatrics and whatever. They get paid peanuts. And they're making this company a lot of money. And then, of course, people running the company say that the company's broke, but their salary is like in the millions. But they can't hire enough staff to help these children. So everybody's but why do you do it? You see what I'm saying? And the reason she's held that job for 7 years, and she was someone who's never held a job even short, she was worse than I was. That's what keeps her going. And then, yeah, her mom just threw a bullet at her too. We were chilling, the kids were snuggling with her. She was literally on her phone planning out our daughter's birthday, which is like the day after tomorrow. We found out bowling was like, everything for a kid's birthday right now is $300+, even for just a simple thing. She's like, we got to figure something else out. And I was in the bedroom or something, and her mom texted her, like, you really should put down the phone and pay attention to your child. Because it's just mom. She's, you know. And I was like, oh, you don't even know how much this woman cares for her children. And you have to know, like, my wife has health stuff, too. She's got hypothyroidism, which sometimes she treats properly and naturally, and it works great. And then all of a sudden she'll like revert to the old programming and get back on medication that doesn't work at all. And I don't know why she keeps doing it, but teach their own. Probably because she works and is yoked to the medical field, and it keeps on getting in there somehow. Anyways, when you care, you got kind of endless energy when you're going through them good vibes. And half the time you're talking yourself out of certain things. And that's generally when your mind is just operating in the world. You've been watching too much X or something, and you've been looking at either too many bad newses or too much envy of, oh, look at this person has these nice things and da-da-da. And that's just not even your life, man. Who cares? What do you have in front of you? Like here's a good example. In our case, we had a house fire. We had our second kid and moved back with Linda's mom. That's why we're still with her. And then COVID hit, and then we're still stuck there. We weren't planning on staying there long. And then we had a house fire, totaled the house. And then we went through this whole year of rebuild and moving from place to place, and we ended up getting this fixer-upper house. We had a contractor come in and just do the bare, just get it good enough to live in, all cheap everything. Everything's already falling apart and I'm fixing it up. And there's so many negative things to pick out about that whole situation. But in the end, we somehow ended up with this pretty nice size house, the pretty nice size yard. And it just so happens to be in a cul-de-sac. And it just so happens to have this nice trail that goes right across the cul-de-sac, a walking path that leads up to a little playground. And it goes in this big loop down by a pond where there's geese and ducks. And my kids have the space they need. Like my boy Isaiah, he needs space. He loves space. When we first got here, he started doing laps around the kitchen, because you could do the stairway in the kitchen. You could do laps around it. And it's like everything you needed, but the journey was hellish. But like, look what we have, and we still have reasons to complain. We got reasons to complain about the fixes that need to be done. I just needed to replace the inducer fan in the furnace because I didn't want to pay someone $750 come out and do it. Just a $200 part, takes 5 minutes to put in. And but there's so many things to complain about, but really? Is there really? And I'm just going to take the time to segue into this other thing that I wanted to even talk about. And I know I'm rambling, but I don't care. There's this cool thing kind of going on, and if you know, you know. It's one of these things. It's the timeline split. And I don't think this is the only time this has happened. I think this happens all the time. I think this has constantly happened. But the premise is right now there's this big shift to where if you don't let go of The old world, you're going to be stuck in it, and it is dying. And you need to adapt and ascend into this new bubble, this new world, this new dimension. And so some people are going to be left behind, and some people are there's going to be a split, right? And you can almost, when I first kind of heard of it, I envisioned the rapture, where all of a sudden people just poof, disappeared in the blink of an eye. But I almost kind of think that this kind of thing is always going on, not to get way too deep, but think about it. And the way that this relates is we see all these things around the world, and like, is it already happening? Because compared to what's going on in some parts of the world, I'm in heaven right now. I have great kids, great wife, crazy mother-in-law. I escaped my own personal hell, trying to create my own personal heaven. People elsewhere would kill if they could switch places with me. And half the time I'm whining about it, because I'm looking for something else other than what's right in front of me. And like, granted, there's improvements to make everywhere in every part of my life, and it's a lot of work. But where do you let go? Like, where? Because these complaints and these worries are my old beliefs. Like, I don't have enough time. I do. Things work out timely for some reason. A good example is some days I'll kind of give up. I'll start, or at least maybe for a half a day, I'll like be like, yeah, I'm gonna hit this day good. I'm gonna get all this shit done. And like, I find like the first couple of hours, like, I'm just dropping shit. Nothing's like clicking or working, something's off. And I do have the freedom in my day structures and my jobs to where I can be like, because I work for myself. If I'm going in to do a punch list on a unit or a place or a house or a flip or a transition, if it's going that bad, I'm out. I'm like, I'm not gonna fuck anything else up. I'm gone. I'll come back later today or tomorrow. I can do that. I've set my life up that way. Instead of just pushing through. Some days I just push through. But I'm trying to make a point. Even if I'm just working on a piece for this, or trying to build a raised flower bed, and if shit ain't going right, like, I'll stop. And I just totally forgot my train of thought and where I was going with this. But I guess when I come back to it, all of a sudden everything works out right. And I think I was talking about beliefs. And like, I don't know, I do believe all these, especially for the early recovery, let go of everything you thought. Let go of that it's going to suck to be a goody-goody two-shoes. Let go that it's going to suck to be sober all the time. There is so much joy. You don't even... Levels of joy that you couldn't even achieve with drugs. Drugs, you achieve euphoria and high... Why is my wife calling me?